I remember back in the day seeing commercials for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare on television. The whole thing looked like an insane change of pace coming from the earlier Call of Duties that, at that point, all followed the World War II setting. Admittedly, I was still high from the glory days of playing games with more modernized weaponry like SOCOM United States Navy SEALs on the PlayStation 2, so the looks of something like Call of Duty 4 was certainly appealing, but it was hard to imagine even thinking about dropping SOCOM with confrontation being on the horizon. In the end, Modern Warfare looked so incredible that it was hard to pass up. The whole commercial looked visually epic with all of the action and that scene with the dude falling out of the helicopter, and when it came to finally being able to play the game, it was like hitting a roller coaster head on, experiencing a once-in-a-lifetime thrill that you only get the first time flying through. With that being said, it's one of my favorite games ever, so naturally, when Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remaster was first shown off, it was like, oh man. Unfortunately, the game would be locked behind copies of the 2016 release of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, something that would actually be criticized on numerous occasions. It was a bold and not so favorable decision that Activision would make. However, it was one that probably paid off in the end, as I personally know many people who had actually bought the Legacy and Deluxe editions of Infinite Warfare just to be able to play that sweet Call of Duty 4 Remaster. Fortunately, Activision would eventually free the game from the shackles of Infinite Warfare and release it as a standalone title in June of the following year. And with that, it's time for us to look back at the beginning and talk about Call of Duty 4. Developed by Infinity Ward and published by Activision, the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare would release on November 5th, 2007 on PlayStation 3, 360, and Windows, with a port to Mac OS X on September 26, 2008, and on the Nintendo Wii with the Reflex Edition on November 10th, 2009. There would also be a Nintendo DS version as well, where you take control of soldiers not related to the regular Call of Duty 4, but the game at least follows events that are related to the plotline. As for the remastered version of Call of Duty 4, as previously mentioned, it would initially release alongside Infinite Warfare on November 4th, 2016 for the PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One. However, Activision would eventually let up and release the remastered version on the PlayStation 4 on June 27th, 2017, and then the following month for Xbox One and Windows on July 27th, 2017. This remaster would be taken care of by Raven Software, who had previously developed titles like Soldier of Fortune, Singularity, and Wolfenstein 2009. However, in the more recent years, they've gone on to collaborate on the development of other Call of Duty entries, including Warzone. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare would initially be released with overwhelming praise across the board, with a Metacritic in the 90s range for PS3, 360, and PC. The game would go on to receive multiple awards, including Best Action Game, Best Shooter, and also Game of the Year from several outlets. The remastered version would also receive solid scores, but it wasn't without issues, particularly on PC, the version that I'll be playing. I'll also add that, like my other videos, I don't really tend to go on about the multiplayer components of games, but I'll at least mention this one a little bit. What I always liked about the original Modern Warfare was how grounded the game's multiplayer had felt. It was super balanced and the kill streaks weren't crazy just yet. You only had a UAV, the airstrike, and the helicopter. It wasn't like Modern Warfare 2 where you could see Predator drones, Harriers, and AC-130s and all that other stuff wreaking constant havoc if you had a team of people feeding kills. Yet, despite the simplicity, it was a fun game to play online and definitely one of my favorite multiplayer memories. The game would also have a map pack DLC too, which Activision would also charge money for in the remastered edition. But anyways, that's pretty much the rundown of Call of Duty 4, so let's move on to some story. If you don't like recaps, feel free to skip to the provided timestamp. I won't be mad, I promise. Call of Duty 4 begins with Gaz talking about the state of the world, with a civil war happening in Russia between government loyalists and ultra-nationalist rebels, and also the state of the Middle East, with Khaled al-Assad fixing to become the top dog. This is where we learn that there's a new SAS recruit whose name is Soap. This begins the first level of the game, FNG, which is pretty much just a tutorial. All we're doing here is learning how to fire guns and knife and stuff, which gets us a nice compliment about how great we are at chopping fruit.
Knife the watermelon. Nice! Your fruit killing skills are remarkable.
Anyways, Soap is then directed to meet the rest of his squad before being tasked with running a training course.
It's the FNG, sir. Go easy on him, sir. It's his first day in the regiment.
Right. What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh? How'd a muppet like you pass selection? Soap, it's your turn for the CQB test. Everyone else head to observation. For this test, you'll have to run the cargo ship solo in less than 60 seconds. Gaz holds the current squadron record at 19 seconds. Good luck.
After we're done here, we learn that we're going to take part in a cargo ship mission, which ends the level here. The next scene shows we're going to be securing a package on board a cargo ship, and that the crew itself is expendable. This is where we see the real introduction to Call of Duty 4.
30 seconds, going dark. Seconds. Radio check. Go to secure channel. Lock and load. Green light. Go, go, go. Weapons free. Bridge secure. Hold your fire. Guys, stay in the boat till we secure the deck. Over. Roger that.
Now on board the ship, the team sweeps the area, eventually heading into the ship where they come across the package in a shipping container, which Price says is in Arabic. However, we learn that there's multiple bogeys heading their way, which leads to Soap being asked to grab a manifest before the team goes on to make their escape. This eventually leads to radio chatter, where we overhear that an enemy aircraft has begun firing when we see an explosion.
Bravo 6, come in. Bravo 6, what's your status?
What the hell happened? The ship's sinking! We've got to go!
Bravo 6, come in, damn it!
Big Bird, this is Bravo 6. We're on our way out! On your feet, soldier! We are leaving!
This leads to the team bolting through the ship as it starts flooding. We eventually make it to the deck, where we end up having to jump to a helicopter.
Jump for it! Gotcha! We're all aboard! Go!
Roger that, we're out of here. Base plate, this is Big Bird. Package secured, returning to base. Out.
Which ends the level, popping up the title screen, and immediately begins this section where we see a target being followed as we switch to playing as President Al-Fulani. This section is pretty much us just taking in the view of a city as we're driven to a place where we see a dude named Imran Zakhaev give Al-Assad a Desert Eagle. So with this next scene, we learn that Al-Fulani was executed on national television, which leads to us also learning that we're to find and rescue an ultra-nationalist informant named Nikolai who's about to be executed. This leads to the next mission, Blackout. We're then tasked with eliminating outer guard posts along the way to meet Russian loyalists. Once at the location, we find Kamarov, who tells us that BM-21s are nearby with their rockets killing civilians. We go on from here providing sniper support to help out Kamarov's men. This goes on with us having to take out reinforcements at a power station. Price isn't too happy about having to help. However, Kamarov reassures him by saying that they'll carve a path to the informant by taking out the BM-21s. After this, Kamarov goes on saying that they'll be victorious with even more sniper support, which leads to Gaz getting angry and getting the location of the informant out of him. We learn that he's in a house in the northeast corner of the village, which is followed by us rappelling down and rushing to the location before anything happens to Nikolai. Getting to the house, Gaz cuts the power and we head inside, finding Nikolai upstairs. We then head to an LZ and extract, which ends the level, where we learn about the United States going in to attack Al-Assad. The next scene here, we learn that the Marines are now heading in to secure Al-Assad, which begins the next mission, Charlie Don't Surf, where we're playing as Sergeant Paul Jackson, with us following a dude named Lieutenant Vasquez. During the opening, we're traveling via chopper when we rappel in, going to a building where we breach and search for information on Al-Assad. After this, we go to regroup with First Squad, learning that Al-Assad is broadcasting at a nearby TV station. Once there, we head inside, making our way to the second floor where Al-Assad is presumed to be. Along the way, we come across Griggs and his team, who says that they haven't seen Al-Assad either. Continuing on, we eventually get to a room where Griggs says that he could hear him. However, it ends up just being a looped pre-recorded broadcast, which ends the level with Lieutenant Vasquez saying that we have a new assignment, which is followed by a scene where we learn about Al-Assad Al-Assad making his last stand. We also learn about an M1A2 tank called Warpig being dead in the water in the area, with our team being sent to secure it. This begins the level The Bog, where we learn about Warpig being stuck half a click north of the starting point. Our objective here is to secure Warpig, but first we need to eliminate enemy forces in a nearby apartment to move forward. After making it past the apartment, we're then tasked with using a javelin missile to blow up enemy tanks. Once the last tank is down, we continue on to Warpig's location, intercepting the enemy before they can overtake it. This is followed by us going to destroy an enemy's EPU by planting C4 and then going on to secure the southern sector, placing an IR beacon for air support that blasts away at the remaining enemies in the area. With the enemy forces now eliminated, we regroup with our squad, where Vasquez informs the group that we're going to be taking up defensive positions around the bog to buy engineers time to get the tank fixed up, which also ends the level, and switches us back to a scene where we hear Gaz talking about Nikolai being taken to a safe house in Hamburg. This starts the mission Hunted, where our helicopter is shot down right in the beginning. Surviving the crash, Price says that they need to get moving before a search party arrives as we head to an extraction point, eventually coming across this old dude being harassed, and then this house where we come under heavy fire as Gaz opens a door to a basement where we find shelter from the enemy. Not long after this, we hit a point where an AC-130 starts blowing stuff up, which ends this section, and shows the scene of an AC-130. The next mission, Death from Above, we're manning the guns of an AC-130 supporting Price's squad. It's really just blowing stuff up until they get to an LZ. But once we're done here, we switch back to the USMC with a scene where we learn about Al-Assad's forces now falling back to the presidential palace, with Warpig now en route, beginning the level Warpig. At the start of this level, we see that things are quite hot, as our objective is to escort the tank to safety by clearing the area of enemies. Eventually, we get to watch Warpig blow up another tank, and then we get our new objective of getting to C-Night LZ for extraction, where we also learn of Al-Assad's location, which ends this level. The next scene shows that Al-Assad is in the capital city, and that there's a possibility that he has a warhead. This starts the level Shock and Awe, where we're softening resistance by blowing stuff up. We eventually land and get tasked with assisting and extracting an advanced recon team, coming across their location and then bringing them to an LZ, where we go back to manning a grenade launcher. Heading into the air, we learn that a SEAL team was able to locate a nuclear device at Al-Assad's palace when forces are told to fall back. However, a friendly pilot gets shot down, which leads to us having to rescue her. We rush to the pilot, carrying her back to the helicopter. Hearing again that there's a possible nuclear threat in the capital, we're told to proceed to a safe distance until an all clear is given. However, there isn't enough time.
All U.S. forces be advised. We have a confirmed nuclear threat in the city. Nest teams are on site and attempting to disarm. I repeat, we have a confirmed Everyone hang on!
So after the nuke scene, we're shown a transition of all of the affected soldiers in the area, with Sergeant Jackson being tracked as we switch back to him. Initially surviving the crash, Jackson crawls through the downed helicopter, seeing the blown up remnants of the city before he eventually falls to the ground and dies. We see in the next scene that Jackson was KIA when we switch back to the SAS, with Nikolai sending Price the location of a safe house where Al-Assad is located. This begins the level Safe House. Our mission here is to secure a village and to locate Al-Assad. This inevitably takes us to a scene where we get to witness Price go hard.
Remember, we want Al-Assad alive. He's no good to his head. Let's go.
Why'd you do it? Where did you get the bomb? لم أكن وراء ذلك. Who then? لم أكن وراء ذلك. Who? Give me a name. A name. I want his name.
Sir, it's his cell phone. Who was that, sir?
Zakhaev.
Imran Zakhaev.
It ends the level with Price executing Al-Assad after hearing Imran Zakhaev on the phone. The next scene shows us going back 15 years ago with Lieutenant Price being located in Pripyat, Ukraine. Price says that he was just a lieutenant back then doing wet work. We learn here that Imran Zakhaev was able to get his hands on nuclear material during this time as well, which would lead to the authorization of his assassination. Price also says here that he was under the command of a Captain Macmillan, which begins the level all gillied up. The level begins with Macmillan saying there's too much radiation, and then we head off following behind him, choosing to either sneak past or snipe dudes. However, our path is eventually led to this point where we end up having to sneak through a convoy of enemies.
Easy, lad. There's too many of them. Let them go. Keep a low profile and hold your fire. Try to anticipate their paths. If you have to maneuver, do it slow and steady. No quick movements.
Once we get through this area, we continue on with more choices of either staying in shadows or dropping enemies when we hit a building where Macmillan takes note of the dead city.
Look at this place. 50,000 people used to live in the city. Now it's a ghost town. Never seen anything like it.
Not too long after this, we come across our destination, ending the level and immediately dropping us into this time-lapse scene with Price and Macmillan perched inside. This begins the level one shot, one kill, which honestly doesn't take too long for us to start this off with a bang.
Nice work, Lieutenant. We got him.
Once Zakhaev is down, we take out an attack helicopter and then go to make our escape out of the hotel, with our dudes being moments away from being blasted with a boom. This leads to the two having to get through the area with an extraction incoming. However, we eventually hit this point where we gotta snipe another helicopter when Macmillan gets hurt, leaving us to have to carry the dude. Once we hit the extraction zone, we drop Macmillan in some grass and then prepare for an enemy wave, holding out until an evac helicopter arrives. After it finally comes, we pick up Macmillan and drag him to it, making our escape, which ends the level. The next scene moves us back to the present, where we learn that the team has to wait a half hour for a chopper. Price says that the ultra-nationalists are gonna come for Al-Assad, and that they'll need to hold their ground at an extraction point. This leads to the mission Heat, where we take up defensive positions along a ridgeline, waiting for enemies. After mortars start raining down, they head back, going on to defend the southwestern approach. However, we learn that the LZ is too hot and that there's SAM sites all over the mountains, which means that they need to move the LZ. Under heavy fire, the team heads to the new extraction area, surviving until the helicopter comes in when they're eventually picked up, which ends this level. Our next scene here, we see that there's now a joint operation between the SAS and the USMC. Price says here that they're going to use Zakhaev's son, Victor, to lure out Zakhaev, with Kamarov knowing his location. We're then thrown into the level Sins of Our Father, where our first task is to locate and clear an enemy checkpoint. Once this is done, the group changes into enemy uniforms, setting up an ambush for Zakhaev's son. The plan goes south, unfortunately, as our lookout gets knocked down, with us now having to chase Victor down. We do catch up with the dude, going in to disarm and restrain him. However, he has other plans.
Drop the bloody gun! Now drop it! I can put one in his leg, sir.
No, we can't risk it. Hold your fire. So, take his weapon and restrain him.
Drop it! No!
Kid's got some issues.
Base plate, this is Bravo 6. Zakhaev's son is dead. We're coming home.
His son was our only lead, sir.
Forget it. I know the man. We won't let this go unanswered. Let's go.
Which also ends the level with this next scene of Imran Zakhaev giving an ultimatum.
Our so-called leaders prostituted us to the West, destroyed our culture, economies, our honor, our blood has been spilled on our soil. My blood on their hands. They are the invaders. All US and British forces will leave Russia immediately or suffer the consequences.
This is followed by our team now being sent in when the mission, well, ultimatum begins. We learn here that Griggs was separated from the group, and then we're tasked with locating him, going through some houses to find him. We do eventually get to him, discovering that he had been captured by the enemy. Now that Griggs is with us, we go on to destroy a power transmission tower by planting C4. After booming this thing, we end up having to regroup with another squad where we see some missiles being launched. This results in us being tasked to get into the enemy facility and take their launch control center while they work on getting abort codes from the Russians, which ends ultimatum. And begins the next scene where we see a pair of nukes being launched with their simulated projection showing a large number of casualties, and then we're thrown into the mission all in, where our objective is to gain entry into the launch facility. Our objective changes along the way, where we then have to blow up some armored vehicles. After this, we cover our squad while they breach the air vents into the facility, going in after and rappelling down. This leads to yet another transition scene of the nukes, where we learn that they're still in the process of trying to get the abort codes, immediately being tossed into the mission no fighting in the war room. After we fight to the launch control room with a timer popping up, creating extra tension. We finally make it to the launch control door, and well,
Guys, can't you make it open faster?
Negative, sir. But you can try pulling it if it makes you feel better.
this continues with us going in and breaching launch control with some C4, going in and clearing it, where we go on to upload abort codes. After this, we see Zakhaev on the screen, along with a massive number of troops converging on the area, which forces us to make our escape. Following Price, we rush to a vehicle depot and clear some more enemies, ending the level and beginning this scene with our boys having a chat.
It's just too hot, man. But room temperature? Please, a beer should be ice cold.
A lager, maybe, or a glass of water like you drink, and a pint of stout.
I'm gonna have to screw y'all both when we get back stateside.
Yeah, well, either way, we're stopping in London first. And I'm buying.
Well, at least the world didn't end. Hit it.
With the level game over now beginning, we're pretty much just trying to survive, dropping enemies. However, an enemy gunship eventually blows up a bridge, causing us to get messed up. We survive this endeavor at least, only to see an endless wave of enemies. Price attempts to ask for support, but we learn that we're on our own. This leads to Kamarov getting into contact with us, saying that he's sending in men to help, with a ETA of 3 minutes. Unfortunately, it isn't quick enough. So with this scene, Gaz and Griggs are killed, with Price sliding a pistol to Soap, which lets us drop Zakhaev, and then shortly after, Kamarov comes in to save the day. But as we're being taken away, we see a soldier look like he's trying to save Price, whose final status is now in question, as the screen fades to white, with the newscaster talking about how the Russian missiles had fallen within UN protocols. It ends Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, but not before we hear this line.
We're going deep and we're going hard.
Surely you can't be serious.
I'm serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Which begins one last bonus level with Mile High Club. All we're doing here is trying to fight through a plane to rescue a VIP, eventually having to drop some dude with this slow motion sequence. After this, we go to exit the plane, finally ending Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. Before moving on, I'd like to at least mention that there's one more aspect to the game, and that's arcade mode. This is basically just a little extra game mode where you replay through the campaign and get points by killing enemies and making it through the levels without dying as quickly as possible. It's something to do if you get bored and want another reason to run through the game again with an extra challenge, but that's really it here. So now with everything laid out, I'll just throw my thoughts on the Modern Warfare Remaster out there. I think when you don't come back to something for a long time, it feels strange. It's been a very long time since I played Call of Duty 4, so I'll just admit that there was quite a lot that I didn't remember. Obviously, there's stuff that I'd never forget, like the opening mission on the boat or All Gillied Up, and even the famous nuke scene. But there was so many little things that had been wiped from my brain, which made me think that the game was shorter than it actually was. For example, the mission Heat. This level happens right after you do the Price Gillied Up one-shot, one-kill stuff, so I guess maybe that could attribute to it, since Gillied Up is memorable, and this is sort of just a continuation of Safe House, the mission where Price kills Al-Assad at the end. Except now you're just sort of holding out, eliminating enemies until an extraction helicopter comes. It's so strangely fluff when a lot of the game is paced pretty well. I'd also add that the story in the game isn't really over the top or anything like the later entries, but it still stays interesting the entire way through at least. You kind of get left wanting to see more and more, though I have to add, there's some missions that are a lot more fun than others. All that said, something else that I had always appreciated about Call of Duty 4 was how balanced the game was. There wasn't an overwhelming amount of weapons, so most of the guns that you did pick up felt smooth. This is something that obviously still applies for the remaster, as the game is pretty much the same. This includes the, oh boy, the grenade spam. If you're unfamiliar with this, I'll just flat out say that both Call of Duty 4 and World at War were notorious for enemy grenade spam. Seriously, you could still find yourself dodging grenades left and right, sometimes to the point where you gotta back away. That being said, this game is quite difficult when you compare it to the post-World at War entries. Why? Well, it stems from more than just grenade spam. See, in the older Call of Duty games, enemies had a tendency to respawn far more. Since Call of Duty 4 Remastered stays true to the original game, this is an element that hasn't really changed. There are, however, some changes. For example, you can see Makarov and Yuri now in the level one-shot, one-kill, which fixes some of the continuity issues that would pop up in Modern Warfare 3. Regardless, the Remastered mostly stays true to the original, and that's something that I can appreciate. What I also have to give credit to in the Modern Warfare Remaster is just how gorgeous this game looks. Seriously, some of the levels look impressive. My favorite was probably the bog. That introduction section with the night vision goggles where you could see all of the green lasers is still a cool sight and looks just as crazy as I remembered it looking in the original Call of Duty 4. Naturally, I'm gonna give credit to All Gillied Up as well. Something about the foliage and the area design is just exquisite in HD and really stands out as being one of the more impressive levels in any Call of Duty. I also give credit to Crew Expendable as well. Something about the stormy atmosphere of the level really stands out, and that run to the helicopter at the end feels so epic. Absolute gem of a level, easily one of the best. Audio stuff is also good. Guns sound a bit weird in the Call of Duty 4 Remaster, though I suppose the reason for that could be that like half of the levels you're using an M4 with the silencer on it. I think the most satisfying weapon that I picked up in the campaign was the R700. I don't know why, but I thought this one sounded really raw, like a shot of lightning. I'd also add that the game's music is still quite good as well. It's not overly epic like Modern Warfare 2 or hardcore metal like Black Ops, but it's still good. I'd also say that the Marines and the SAS themes are catchy enough to get stuck in your head. Outside of that, the voice acting in the game is also good too. We get the same old price, and we know Gaz is the same dude who does Ghost and Wallcroft in the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3, but both of these dudes have great performances here as well, and I don't think they'll ever get old either. But now we come to one last section, and that's the flaws of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. Well, apart from the Steam version being relatively broken with some settings that you need to play around with so the game doesn't crash, it's mostly fine. I feel like I always have to nitpick something when I like a game, but I guess if there's something that I feel didn't age too hot, it's the respawning enemies. Like, this game is short, but I can only imagine how much shorter it would have been without some areas feeling like they were filled with endless waves of enemies. Granted, I think that this combined with the grenade spam added to the difficulty too, but I think I can overlook the grenade stuff more than the respawns. I'd also add that the game has moments where there's a little tedium too, like these moments where you have to wait for people to open doors. I don't know why, but this was something that started to get to me towards the end. There were so many random moments where I found myself a little irritated that I had to sit around and wait for like 5 minutes for Price to come up and open a door for me to continue. It's not really a huge deal, but damn, hurry up, Price. So that about wraps it up. In closing, the Call of Duty 4 Remaster is a solid entry that adds a fresh coat of paint to a game that's one of the best of its kind. Some of the issues with the Steam version suck, and there's certain aspects that didn't particularly age too hot, but the game itself is still entertaining and definitely hits them nostalgia vibes hard. The game's constant action leaves you wanting more and more just to see what kind of stuff happens next. It's a great introductory entry to the original Modern Warfare trilogy, and honestly helps show why Infinity Ward was so ahead of the FPS game back when they first made Call of Duty 4. It's a special game, and one that deserves all the recognition that it received. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. Did you like Call of Duty 4 or the remaster, or have any nostalgic memories of the game? Hit up the comments and tell me about it. And while you're here, why not give a like and also subscribe too if you already haven't? We'll be back with more sooner than later, so stay tuned. Until next time, peace out.